Hello and welcome to YouTube Talk with MagicCatJenny. I'm Jenny and today I am joined by Liz from Elizziebooks. YouTube Talk is the live show slash podcast that's all about YouTube and the YouTube community because through YouTube you can celebrate your other interests. So welcome Liz, why don't you introduce yourself and your channel?
All right, I'm Liz, and like Jenny said, I'm from Elizziebooks, and I sometimes host Booktube News, and well, I'm the only host of it, but um, I do some sorts of things having to do with Booktube, and I have a Booktube channel, which means I talk mostly about books. Sometimes I venture into TV shows and other interests, but for the most part, it's about books, and mostly in the YA realm of things.
Very cool. So Booktube, for those of you watching and listening who don't know, is a sort of subculture, sub-community on YouTube that is all about talking about reading and books. And maybe you can explain it a little better since you've been doing Booktube for longer than I have.
Yeah, you're definitely, yeah, like that is what it is. It's like, it's all about books and promoting reading. I started my channel because I was like, I want to see more people read. That was like my mission statement, and it's still that. It's just like, let's read, and let's read together, because I wasn't necessarily thinking that I was getting more people read. That would be cool. And so, yeah, and through that I've found friends and met people at conferences because of Booktube, so it's been a really cool thing to be a part of.
That's really awesome. I was wondering, how long has Booktube been around? Because it seems like it's been there for a while, but probably not since the very beginning of YouTube. But is there a timeline, or is it kind of just popped up?
I'm trying to think when I start. Yeah, because I had a channel before this, and it was not about books at all. And I was like, I want to make a channel that's just about books, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't stepping on anybody's toes. Because at that time, it was like, if this person did this, then it was like no one else could do that. So I was like, I'm gonna do something. There was like one other channel that was talking about books, but I was just like, I think it was, I can't remember if it was, I think it was 2009, something like that. But like it was somewhere around that time that I started my channel, and it was kind of one of those zeitgeist kind of things where Christine from Poland Bananas Books started soon thereafter, and the Readables started about the same time that I did, and her origin story is a little bit different than mine, but at the same time we were all like, let's talk about books on the internet. So, but yeah.
Cool. Wow, yeah, it's interesting because I feel like, especially right now and also in the last few years, it's gotten just
it's exploded.
Really popular. Like, so many people out there are talking about books, and I think that's really cool. I think that's great that it's grown so much. I probably started a little over a year ago talking about books on my channel, which didn't start off as a book channel, and now it's kind of, I do books sometimes, but not all the time, which is a thing. And then there's also channels out there that, like, that's all they talk about. And I think it's interesting. It's cool to kind of see both, but do you consider anybody who talks about books even a little of the time a booktuber? Are you a booktuber if you do booktube videos occasionally, or does it have to be all the time?
It depends on what you want to label yourself as, because I'm always the kind of person who, like, booktuber is the first time that I've ever really, like, labeled myself as anything in, like, my whole entire life. Like, yeah, I do call myself a nerd, but, like, I don't like putting myself under one, like, name and just being like, that's all I do. It makes me kind of like, oh my gosh, is this it? Is this all my life? But, yeah, like, if you even talk about, if you love books and you're like, I make one video a month that's about books, or I make a video, or like once every quarter that's, you know, you want to call yourself a booktuber, that's cool. Because I know for instance, in the Mexican booktuber community, there are some people who, their channels probably, at least like kind of how yours is spread out between like the different videos that you make. Like there's one girl who does like, I guess you could call her like a beauty guru and a booktuber, and she's got like other lifestyle. I would call it like a lifestyle channel because it's like more than just one thing, but it's like mostly having to do with lifestyle kind of things.
Cool.
But yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea that the label's kind of whatever you want it to be, whatever you make it. And in the first episode of the show, we talked about how YouTuber is a label which you can use, but you don't have to use, and you can use it in kind of however you want to define it personally. And I like that with Booktuber too, because I consider myself a Booktuber, but I don't always do Booktube videos. In fact, the last Booktube video I did was probably like a few months ago. So, you know, and it's kind of comes with the mood too that you're in. So, but I like it. Yeah, I like being a Booktuber sometimes. It's nice. It's fun. So I actually have a little clip from one of your videos I want to screen, and instead of setting it up, I'm just gonna have Jim set up the
roll the clip.
Roll the clip, Jim.
Most of these books came from publishers and or are review copies of some sort. The first is Trouble is a Friend of Mine by Stephanie Tromley, and oh my goodness, this book is good. Oh man.
Cool, just a super quick clip from one of your videos. That was from a book haul. So book hauls are a type of video that YouTubers do. How would you describe what a book haul is to someone who had never heard of that?
It's basically showing all the books that you've obtained in a certain time period. I guess if you want to really I don't know, scientific-ish about it. There are some booktubers who they just buy all of their books. There are some people who just do library books, and some people who just do comics. And I think there might be a subgenre of comic. I don't know if there's comic tube, but I feel like there should be because it's visual and whatnot. But and then there are those of us who obtain copies from publishers, so whether it be a finished copy, which seems to be pretty popular for booktubers, or every once in a while I'll get like an ARC, which is a galley, and it's like a paperback looking kind of thing, or it's a mix of all of those things. So it's just being able to visually show your audience, like, this is this book, and if you I don't know, I'll read one book out of the pile and I'll be like, yeah, this one's pretty good. But for the most part, it's books that you have not read yet. So it's just books that you very recently bought or somehow obtained.
Cool. Yeah. So in that sense, too, they're kind of related to the TBR video, which sometimes they can be combined. Now, TBR stands for to be read. So that's more of saying, here's the books I'm about to read.
Yeah.
And we have a short clip from my friend Cassie, who's talking about her TBR from, I believe it was in September, but let's screen that clip really quick.
I have Storm of the Century by Stephen King. I found this in my moving, and I haven't read it in a while. And I really like this story. It's very strange. This is just the screenplay for the movie that was made.
Yeah, so TBR, book haul, similar,
They're
but
similar,
not entirely the same.
Yeah, because TBR is like, you don't have to necessarily like be reading it right away, but TBR or book haul is not necessarily like, I'm gonna read this month, but TBRs are usually like, you'll see some like wrap up / TBR, so it's like last month stuff, and then I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna read this month. So yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a book that you just obtained. It could be something that's been on your shelf for years.
Oh yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm finally gonna read this now.
Oh yeah. Like doing like a Halloween TBR or something like that, where you're like, I'm just gonna read scary books this month.
Right, that's cool. And I really like watching those videos because then you kind of get a sense of, oh, maybe I should read those too, or oh, I didn't know about this particular one, especially if the booktuber you are watching reads the same sort of genre that you're interested in too, which is also really cool because there's so many booktubers out there. You can find someone whose tastes are similar to yours and then just
Exactly.
watch their videos for recommendations, basically.
Oh yeah, and that also brings in like the book clubbish feel to it. So like you don't necessarily like need to read all the same books as that other person, but if you read like one of them and then you watch their wrap up and you can like comment on at least one of the books, you're like, oh yay, we have something in common. So you feel like that bond.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then especially too if they're not. If they don't have too many subscribers where they can't reply to every comment, if they're kind of if they're able to interact with the comments a lot, then you can, you know, send them a comment saying, wow, I read that book and I really liked it too, and then you can, you know, have these conversations, which I think is really great.
Yeah.
And there's a few other of these booktube tropes, as you will, like I don't have a clip of one, but bookshelf tours is one of my favorite to watch.
Oh yeah. It's hard to do a clip from that because it's literally like, let me point towards my bookshelf and show you all the things one by one.
Yeah, I love those so much. I've done 3 of them in my time, and some of these booktubers though, there's so many books. Like some of my friends watching, whose videos I've screened, are like they have like it's like a library. It's it's amazing.
If I had more than one bookshelf, it would be like that. I have one bookshelf and it's just like double stacked, and I'm like, if I did no one's asked me to do one in a while, and I'm fine with that. I'm just like, I would be scared to do one because I would have to like actually, I'd feel like, here you go, here's my unhaul while I'm doing my bookshelf tour.
Yeah. Oh, and unhauls.
Oh yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah, I meant to mention that with the book hauls because it's very, very similar, but it's like, I am getting rid of these books, whether it's a book that you read once and you're like, oh, you know, I read it, but I don't plan on reading it again. Let's take that to charity shop or secondhand shop or whatever the case may be, your used bookstore. But you also have people who, I know I've been to conferences before where they're like, here's an arc, and you take like 30 of them home, and then you read like 15 of them, and you're like, it's time to get to the newer books, and so you're like, oh, I don't plan on reading this book, or it struck my fancy at the time, but now it's like, I don't really like this, or, you know, you might have found out something about it that you didn't like, so it's just going, okay, I'm going to get rid of these books, but I'm going to show you guys before I do that.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, too. I like how a lot of these videos are kind of just, like, showing you books.
Yeah.
And just, like, making you aware of different kind of books, and I think that's really, it's really cool. I like watching that a lot. Another trope, I guess you could say, are tags. Now, tags are YouTube-wide. Everybody knows about, you know, what a YouTube tag is, but they are definitely tags specific to BookTube, and I think they're really great, especially if you're new to BookTube or you're new to video making and you don't know where to start, what to do. You could pick up one of these tags to kind of get used to talking about books and the kind of books you like and everything. And one of the tags that I've done, and also my friend Haley has done, so I'm going to screen a clip from Haley's video, is the social media book tag. Now in the clip I don't even get to her actually talking about the book specifically, but just kind of her talking about reading, and it's a pretty interesting clip, so why don't we screen that.
Facebook, a book everyone pressured you into reading. This one was hard because I really don't get pressured into reading books. I'll see a book that everyone's reading and maybe eventually I'll read it, but I never, like, no one ever forces me on it.
That's pretty cool. That was a social media book tag where each book that you pick is kind of related to a social media in like an interesting kind of arbitrary way, but those are fun, and I don't feel like you always have to wait to get tagged to do those too. Like if they're floating around, if they're floating around and people you subscribe to are doing them, I'm kind of like, oh, I'll do that one. Why not?
Yeah, it's almost like surveys rather, like, because like half the time it's like, yeah, you could wait to get tagged, but at the same time, like, if there's one, because I don't do a lot of tags just because I feel like my answers end up being the same because I'm like, I don't read, like, I read quite a bit, but I don't feel like I read like 200 books a year, so my answers don't vary that much because my favorites just kind of like rise to the top. So they're like
still the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like the same 5 books over and over again, and you're like, oh, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
But yeah, tags are a lot of fun, especially like you said, with like just getting your routine down of like making a video and introducing yourself and the thing that, or the books that you like and the books that you read out into the booktubosphere.
Booktubosphere, yeah. And then there's the most obvious one, I would think, and that is a review. Talking a whole video dedicated to a book that you read and just talking about it. And what's interesting is I've seen videos about people talking about review videos and how those tend to get lower views than their other booktube videos.
Very much.
Because, you know, if someone hasn't read a book, they're not going to want to watch a review about it, especially if there's spoilers. Usually. Or, you know, if they've read it, they might not care to listen to a review because they've already read it. Like, there's pros and cons to those videos. And I feel like they also take a lot longer to make because you have to really like, plan out your thoughts. And
I always write my blog post before I write or film my video, or like do like write down my book review beforehand. That way, like, I do have something to go off of, so I'm not like, wait, did I say that? What did I do? And so just kind of goes back and forth. But yeah, with like book review videos, some of them will have like a bunch, like you'll see like Christine May and like some other of the like more viewed booktubers, they'll have like lots of views, and then like I don't get that many views, but at the same time, like in that same realm of like review videos, you've got wrap-up videos that get like a bunch of views. Like I can I don't know, look at those in comparison, and it's just like you're bundling up the reviews, so it's, I don't know. I guess it's
because they're shorter. The review, it's not like
so you're kind of like saying, here's what this book is about, and here's kind of how I felt about it for like, you know, a minute, and then you're moving on.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a haul.
It's almost like a haul, but kind of like, and your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
After reading it. That's interesting. Yeah, I when I first started getting into BookTube, I was like, I'm going to do a book review video for every book that I read. And I'm not a fast reader, so I didn't think it would be that difficult. But they take so much out of you that I couldn't do that. I think I may need to go back and just do like a wrap-up with a bunch of them that I haven't done, because it's like they're more difficult than it seems to just spend an entire video talking about one book.
Exactly.
But someone who's good at it is one book, one review.
Yes.
She's very good at it. I have a short clip from her channel to share.
Hey everyone, I thought we could start the week by talking about The Fictional Woman by Tara Moss. This is a sort of memoir feminist book about her life and her views on women and how they are represented in the media and the stories we tell about women. Also some aspects of the women's rights and the women's movement and development and generally women and gender studies and stuff.
Yeah, I really love her channel.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Her discussion videos are really good too.
Yeah, definitely. One of my inspirations when I get it back into BookTube videos and making them. But yeah, it's interesting too. Like, because the first few review videos I did, I was determined to not have any spoilers, so that more people technically would be interested in watching. But then it limits you so much that I decided, I was like, I can't. If I'm gonna keep doing these, like, I have to be able to get in depth into talking about it.
So do you like wait till like later on in the video to talk about the spoilers, or do you just like do them in like interspersed?
What I do is I made this little construction paper thing that says spoilers and it looks like it's on fire, and I basically just like tack that up on my bookcase behind me when the spoilers start, so that I tell people, like, if you don't want spoilers, just fast forward the video, and when you see that go down, then you can play it again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
'Cause,
seen.
you know,
I've seen like
it's
different, versions of that.
variations of that. Yeah. Yeah, because I do like watching review videos sometimes. You know, the people that I really just enjoy watching whatever they have to say. But then, yeah, it's like I want to skip over, because, you know, especially if it's a book I'm planning on reading, I like don't want to hear what happens, but I want to keep watching the video. So that was kind of my little idea for that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of one of those things where they're fun to make, so you kind of just make them anyways, even though, you know, like the numbers say don't, but, you know.
Yeah, because you find a book, like, every once in a while I'm just like, either it's like I'm on a blog tour and I need to post a review anyways, or it's like this book is a book that I especially want to talk about, like Libba Bray's, her most recent series, I forget what it's called, has Literary Dreams. It's got those, like, ginormous books, and you almost have to do a video on its own because they're, like, 12 characters, and you just want to talk about all of them, so it's just kind of like, okay, just put that, you know, aside for its own video. So
yeah, and I do notice too that even though those, like, not a lot of people end up watching those videos, the people that do and have read those books leave great comments.
Oh my gosh, yes, agreed.
And that's so awesome, just being able to have
that
that conversation. Yeah, totally worth it for that. We have a few comments on our live chat. I'm gonna read a few. Haley says, I've never been good at the reviews. I've only done one or two because I just don't think I'm very good at them. It's hard. It's hard to I feel the same way too. I'm just like talking about the things I like, and they're not super structured.
I did make an outline not too long ago. Well, it was probably longer than I think it is. But I've had this little sheet of paper. It's like folded in half, so it's like a notebook sheet of paper, and it just has like you know, summary. What did I like about it? What did I not like about it? Characters, plot, just like different points that I'd like to talk about, and so that really helps me, or it helped me at least when I was starting to make review videos. So if you're ever like, I really want to make review videos, or at least do, like, you know, the wrap-up videos and incorporate some of those things, it's nice to have some sort of outline to be like, okay, this is kind of what I want to do. So I don't script anything, but outlining helps a lot.
Yeah, I definitely try to outline the things I want to talk about, but I have done review videos too where I'm like, in the raw footage, I'm just like looking up a certain character's name for like a few
always.
And I'm like, okay, so much cut out of those.
Sometimes I don't cut that out, or I'll like leave in a little bit, and like people kind of like that because they're like, somebody once commented on one of my videos and they were like, thank you for leaving in every time, like, or, you know, every once in a while you'll stumble on a word or something like that, and just thanks for keeping that in because it kind of keeps it real rather than having like a zillion jump cuts. And I still do like jump cuts and stuff, but it's nice to have like, every now and then, just like I forgot a character's name. Hold on a second. Yeah. Oh my god.
That's good. It's honest.
And one time my mom borrowed Darkest Minds and she gave it back to me, and she had taken the dust jacket off and put it back on. She put it on upside down. So when I opened it up in the video, I was like, she put it on upside down. I can't read this. I can technically read it, but that's not helpful.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I have another comment from Cassie. She says, I haven't reviewed anything on my channel, but I have a blog, filmed a few, haven't been happy with any of them. So that's an interesting thing. Segue, blogging and vlogging, and the book blogging community and the book vlogging community, and all of how that connects.
Yeah, because I think I mentioned this earlier that I didn't find out about the book blogging community until, like, I don't know, I think it was like at least a couple of months or so into booktubing, and then Chapter Chicks, they sometimes still make videos, not as often as they used to, but they both have children and whatnot, so adult things, but they were the ones that I first heard about the term booktube, and I can't remember who they got it from. But they also mentioned like there used to be a feature called In My Mailbox, and bloggers were using it, and so Chapter Chicks adopted it into their own haul videos, and so it's basically anything that you received from publishers or you somehow like got in the mail. And so that was kind of how I heard about blogging, and I was like, wouldn't this be a great way to like combine, or not combine the two communities, but there wasn't a lot of booktubers at the time, so it was just kind of like, how do I kind of talk to other people who like books? And so it was like, okay, so I created a blog, and so I have both, and so it's nice to, because I like writing blogs and I like making videos. So
yeah, no, I do too. And in fact, before I even like knew that Booktube was a thing, it might even have been like around when it started in like 2009. I did have a blog, and I did review books on my blog as like part of it. And then I stopped doing that for a while, started getting into YouTube, then started getting into Booktube, and now I'm thinking like maybe I should start posting my reviews on my blog again, since I used to do that like so many years ago. So it's interesting how, you know, doing both in different ways yet still related. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because then I got to introduce some of my book blogger friends to Booktube, and so they'll do like hauls and stuff like that. And some of them made more videos, but like, and the book blogging community is great. I love them so much. And so yeah, I like both communities and all that. It warms my heart.
That's really cool. And sometimes, so there's this thing called readathons.
Oh yes.
Which I'm not sure if they probably got started in the book blogging community.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And then Booktube community started doing them, and sometimes they cross over. Why don't you introduce the next clip from Brown Girl Reading, where she talks about one of those?
Yeah, this past weekend, actually yesterday, all day yesterday, there was a readathon. It probably went into today, but it's called Dewey's 24-Hour Readathon, and a video that I found from Dee Dee, also known as Brown Girl Reading. She talked about that, so let's look at a little bit of that.
All right, roll the last clip.
I'm back again, and I'm here to tell you that I'll be participating in Dewey's Readathon, which is taking place tomorrow, starting at 8 a.m. I think it's 8 a.m. Eastern time, but everybody's starting at the same time all over the world. Main thing is, what am I going to be reading or trying to get through? So I have 3 picks.
You basically, with those videos, it's just kind of like, here are all the things that I'm going to read. And I will finish 2 of them. Maybe.
That's cool. Yeah, so it's a readathon. For those of you listening or watching who don't know, is like a set period of time where you're challenged to read a certain amount of books, and sometimes there are mini challenges based on the type of books you pick. The only one I've participated in was the oh goodness, what's it called?
There's Booktubeathon, and there's also
Booktubeathon. Yeah, that's the one.
There's one that basically kind of was the inspiration for Booktubeathon, and what is it called? Man, I can't remember the name of it. So bad. I should have looked it up beforehand. But there is a one that basically Booktube, a lot of people caught on to it and was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that too, because it did involve a lot of bloggers, but they also have incorporated booktubers in it too, because again, a lot of us blog and booktube. So yeah, where was I going with that? Yeah, so you have like a lot of crossover in those readathons where it's like, yeah, bloggers, come in, let's do this thing, and booktubers, let's do this too. And so it's a nice mingling of the two communities and supporting one another.
That's really cool. That's great. Yeah, I did it last year, and I was gonna do it again this year, but then my computer broke, and I just stopped making videos. I kept reading, but I didn't make videos about it. But those like readathons, they're fun.
Oh yeah.
But difficult. I'm a slow reader.
Me too.
So to really do those, I try to pick the shortest books.
Oh
I
yeah,
can.
yeah. The best thing to do is to pick graphic novels. books that are kind of like Captain Underpants, those kind of like chapter books.
Yeah.
Like fast or short audiobooks and like shorter books, like contemporary books.
Yeah.
I can't read under pressure, so I usually maybe finish one, but like if I like it's usually like a couple weeks beforehand that I'm like, I read 13 books in 1 month, and I'm like so every once in a while I'll have like this past June or July I did that where I was like house sitting, and so I just read a whole bunch of books in one weekend, and
nice.
or probably in a week. But
yeah, it sometimes too a book will just like
oh my gosh,
grasp you in a way where like sometimes I've read books so fast, which is really not me, just because it was one of those where you're just reading for hours and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
But then other times there'll be books that will take me like months to read just because I'll read a little bit here and there. And I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I've tried in the past and I've never succeeded to do, and this is gonna sound really sad, but 25 books in a year challenge. I've still never succeeded at that. Just because things get busy, certain times of the year get busy. But I'm trying it again this year, and I think I'm a few books behind, but I really am determined to finally read 25 books a year. Because I have friends who do 50 easily, or do more.
I think I try to do I try to do like 50 to 75, and I think I'm a little bit ahead, but like at the same time, like the thing that I try to tell people is like do it at your own pace. Like if you do find like some time to read like a bunch of books at once, like yay, go you, go me, all that good stuff. But at the same time, like I feel like a lot of people somehow they're like, everybody's pressuring me to read, and it's like, no one's pressuring you to read. We're just pressuring ourselves, and it kind of carries over, and we get carried away with some of the reading. But it's like, just read at your own pace, and like that's something that I learned a while back before some of that conversation happened on Booktube, because I had book blogger friends reading like 200 books a year, and I was like, how are you doing this, and why can't I keep up with you? How do I read all the new books and all that good stuff? And it's like, just go, like, that's why I don't have a TBR pile necessarily. I'll tell people I've got a TBR shelf, but basically I'm like, I just read what I think I would like next. And there's some books that I'm like, oh, I think I'll like that, and then you get into reading and you're like, nah, and you have to be like, I'm not going to finish that one. I'm going to move on to the next one. So those are my helpful tips.
Yeah, those are great tips, because I definitely have I'm almost never just reading one book. Like there'll be books that I start and I pick up when I'm in the mood for it, but it may take me all year to finish. But then there'll be another book that I'll just get so into that I like have to, like it's the only thing I'm reading, but then I'll still go back to this other one. So it's interesting. Like I haven't really done a TBR video super recently, but if I did, it would be like, and I'm gonna read these books, which I have been reading for the past 4 months. But I'm still reading it.
At one time, I made videos instead of doing TBR or like hauls. I did them, and they were called Reading Right Now, and so it was like the books that I was currently reading. So there'd be like 4 or 5 books. Right now, I'm trying to keep it at like one at a time, so I'll actually finish something. Because like I just every once in a while, there's like a whole bunch of things like book or blog tours, which is basically they'll get booktubers involved sometimes, where it's like the publisher or publicist who's representing a publisher is like, hey, I want to read these books. We want you to do these, this kind of post or whatever. And you'll see with like the Percy Jackson stuff lately. That's been a publicist kind of led thing. So yeah, it's like read all the books, do all the things, and it's like, okay, what do I read?
Yeah, that's interesting. When the publicists reach out to you and and you get advanced reader copies, things like that. That's nothing I've ever experienced yet, because I'm not like that into. I'm not like known for that or anything, but it is something that is really interesting to me to see that happen, because they want your honest response, right? They want your honest review. So I think that's really cool to be able to read a book and then to help them with their publicity for the book, but yet also just like hear what you thought about it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and thankfully there's no obligation, like unless you're like, I'm going to be doing a book tour about, or a special post about this book. Like you don't necessarily have to read everything that you get in, but it's nice to get a good chunk of it and be like, hey guys, here's some new stuff, or here's something that was sent to me for review that I think that I might like to read. Because I try to pick stuff that's not like out of my usual. Like I do try to like read more diverse books and stuff like that, but at the same time there's some books that I'm like, okay, I know that I will like this and that I will read it, so.
Yeah, I mean, if you read a certain genre and you like that and you're not that into another genre, like, obviously you pick the one that that is your taste.
Yeah, like I don't read or review a lot of fantasy. Like, I'll read fantasy every once in a while, but like, what was it, Ember in the Ashes? I was like, I read it and I enjoyed it, but I don't necessarily know what to say about any fantasy book, so I'm just like, I liked Harry Potter. That's the extent of my magic. I like silly magic.
That's cool. So what would you say is your like favorite ideal genre that you like reading the most?
I like a couple of genres. So I like YA contemporary. So I'm reading First and Then by Emma Mills, aka Elmify. And I'm really enjoying that one, and I like historical fiction, so what was that called? Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh, and that has like a little bit of magic in there, but it's mostly like historical / based on 1001 Nights, and there's some other ones that I've read recently. They're buried in there somewhere, but I like stuff that's based off of like Tudors and stuff like that too.
Oh, cool. That's really interesting. Yeah, I definitely don't often choose contemporary. I'm actually, I guess maybe not opposite, but a little bit different. I love fantasy and I love sci-fi, and those are my first two choices. But YouTube and Booktube is kind of what got me into more like YA contemporary. Like I didn't really read that beforehand, and I mean, the most obvious one is John Green. I didn't know about him till I got into YouTube, and then of course I crossed over into Booktube. So, and a lot of the YA contemporary that I read are because I heard about them being talked about on Booktube.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. It's kind of an interesting like introduction into this whole other world of books that I wouldn't have picked up otherwise, because I was like, oh, there's no magic in that. I'm not interested, but some of them I am interested in now because I decided I liked it. So it's interesting. It's cool. I like that Booktube's kind of opened me up to different genres when you hear about someone talk about it. Well, I think we've had a great talk here. Is there anything else you want to say, or to any points you wanted to touch on about Booktube before we leave?
Trying to think of anything. Yeah, just like I guess my big advice is always find your own voice. Like you're gonna be inspired by other people, but always look for what you want to say, and what you say is important. So that is definitely worth thinking about when you are either starting a Booktube channel or continuing or having your midlife Booktube crisis, like myself sometimes. But yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. Everybody, you should go subscribe to Liz. Why don't you tell them again how they can find your channel?
I'm at youtube.com/Elizziebooks, ELIZZIEBOOKS, and I am on Twitter at ElizziBeth. So instead of the books, it's Beth. And so it's ELIZZIEBETH. And so you can find me there and doing all sorts of fun stuff and good times.
Yeah,
and thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. And thank you to everyone at home for watching and or listening. Remember to tweet us your videos or videos that you love at YT Talk Podcast and let us know who you want me to interview here next. Thank you again. Stay subscribed to MagicCatJenny. There are more of these videos on the way. And we are on Tumblr now at yttalkpodcast.tumblr.com. I'm going to make some gifts from all these episodes, and it's going to be super great. So I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.